Well, here's an update for tomorrow's threat for severe weather, or maybe you're watching this Friday morning. It'll be later today and on into tonight. So most of Friday, there's not much to worry about at all. Kind of the calm before the storm. But again, March 24th, if you're watching this at a later date. So again, there's a lot of Fridays we have strong to severe storms. Let's get more in depth here. Now, what I have drawn out here, this is this area in white that I usually just only like to do three layers because it gets really confusing when you use all of them from the Storm Prediction Center. This is where I think the maximum risk for severe weather is going to be as far as the most violent threat for severe weather. However, this is all going to be tracking northeast into our area. So even if you're not in this white area, don't say, well, hey, you know, I'm not having as high of a threat as they are over there. It may be higher in your backyard than it is in someone's backyard over there. So keep that in mind as we go through this. And again, we run into this a lot with the social science. And even though your town may not be listed on here, there's only room for so many towns. So don't think you're not in it. We all have the threat for severe weather from Louisiana all the way into northwest Georgia tomorrow night. So let's go forward here. And the reason I've drawn this the way I have is because there's going to be this initial squall line that's going to move into this area in red. And as that squall line comes in, it is going to probably put this rain-cooled boundary in here somewhere. And this has shown up consistently the last 4 model runs, and that's what we watch. So then we're likely going to see this boundary push some cooler air to the south. There's going to be a clash of air masses as we go past, say, 1 o'clock in the morning. And you're going to see that here on the forecast guidance as we go through it. So as we continue on here, the area in orange, we're going to see this stall out just a bit after the initial line, and that's going to lead to widespread, very heavy rain. We're now approaching model guidance 2.5 to 3 inches of rain in some areas, especially as I kind of draw this line and north. So we'll have to really watch the flooding threat as this is slowing down, and that also increases the severe weather threat down the road, as you'll see. So as we get towards this 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock time frame, as we move east here, and a lot of times we talk about the storms weakening. However, the forecast guidance is showing more of a surge of individual type thunderstorms and perhaps more robust thunderstorms along the line, as that initial line may weaken a bit, but then everything kind of catches back up with the upper level energy, and you'll see that as we go through this. Now I'm going to show you some of the same information I showed you last night, but what I'm doing here is I've changed kind of the color, the reflectivity, so you get a better idea of where this unstable air is. Notice as we get towards 11 o'clock, the air is not quite as unstable here from Russellville to Florence. That's going to change a little bit. That'll fluctuate. But notice how much energy we have down here to the south towards Columbus and Tuscaloosa. This is, again, these are joules per kilogram. This is basically how we measure the octane of the atmosphere, so to speak. So once you get really above 500 this time of year, especially at night, that's when you really start to monitor the higher threat for severe weather, especially with the upper level winds that we have coming in. Notice how this area expands and lifts to the north, while the other area over here in the shoals kind of fades away. That's the rain-cooled air. But you also notice you get just down here to the south towards Russellville, and it's 820 joules per kilogram. So the area in red here, that's the area at this current time, which is midnight on the graph model, as the most area likely for seeing severe weather at that time. As we go forward here, notice how this line becomes more linear here, and at the same time the instability continues to increase southeast of that line. So what's going to happen is that rain-cooled boundary is going to continue to try to slide south and clash with that warmer air, and that's why we're going to have more boundaries out there we're going to have to watch. And when you get more boundaries, you've got strong instability and high wind shear, you can spin up tornadoes ahead of the main line. I'm going to show you a zoomed-in view here, so for those trying to check out now, I'll show you another zoomed-in view here in both regions here in just a second. We'll get to that. Notice by 3 o'clock in the morning, 1,200 joules per kilogram there from Double Springs down to Smith Lake, and probably a little higher north of Tuscaloosa. So this area is most likely when we'll see a secondary line begin to surge to the east and intensify, perhaps rapidly. So that's one thing. Again, the reason I like looking at this model data overlaying the Cape is when I'm in severe weather coverage, if we happen to go into wall-to-wall coverage here, I'm able to remember what the model was saying and know, hey, the severe threat's not over. And of course, at that time, you're able to analyze what's going on at the moment. Notice how everything quickly falls apart here around 4 o'clock to the west of this line, but the line continues to move east, Scottsboro, Gunnersville, down to Coleman, and even Boaz. You see these little areas firing up here, and it's at this time we'll really watch for new development as this all moves to the east. So by 5 o'clock in the morning, it looks like it's all over with. So here, before we check out, let's zoom in and go hour by hour. Most of the day, again, no big problems out there. It's going to be as we get past 11 o'clock. So here's that initial squall line coming in northwest of Phil Campbell, Florence. High winds, embedded tornado threat with this. That'll move through. We may go into continuous coverage for that area for an hour or two, maybe just an hour. That's going to weaken, it looks like. Then it becomes a little rain cooled. And this is 11:30. Then notice a secondary area of heavy rain developing from Athens to Russellville, and a few of these cells developing down here from Eva to Coleman, down near Smith Lake. Now this is kind of the first time this has showed up here, at least this dramatically. It's a trend to watch. I mentioned yesterday we like to watch trends. And then notice this secondary just burst of energy, probably all those strong upper level and mid-level jet stream influence coming through. Maybe the jet stream tilt of the trough is negative and coming through at that time. So what the model guidance is showing me is this is the moment we'll really have to watch between 2 and 3 where we get more of this flare-up of the stronger thunderstorms. Right down in here, you see that purple really intensifying. Also an area near Hartselle and Priceville moving towards the Somerville area, and also Falkville. So again, we'll be keeping a close eye on those areas as we go through time. And by about 4 o'clock in the morning, that threat's over. Still heavy rain and some flooding out there overnight. So now let's shift focus here to the northeast corner of the state, up into southern middle Tennessee, down towards Albertville and Boaz. Again, much of the day, not much of a problem out there, but look what starts to happen here. Around 11 o'clock, we will watch for this development. The atmosphere probably won't be as unstable out here, but the high wind shear could see some strong gusty winds and lightning. But it's as we get past 1 o'clock in the morning. Again, this time may continue to delay. We're still 24 hours plus from this event happening, depending on when you're watching this, right? So around 1 o'clock in the morning, it starts to move into Athens, impacting Harvest, Monrovia, and then we have these other little cells firing up here in and around Gunnersville. We'll watch that. So at that moment, we'll be into what we call nowcasting. Here's what's happening now, basically. Notice the line getting better organized around 3 o'clock. Around the same time, we saw the blow up that I just showed you moving towards Smith Lake. Well-defined line here, a lot more wind energy, embedded tornado risk here between 3 and 4, and then everything just kind of blows out of the area around 4:30 to 5 o'clock in the morning. So again, stay weather alert, and we'll keep you up to date. We're going to have several ways for you to watch. We do have a WAFF YouTube channel as well. I ask you to subscribe to my channel and go to that channel as well. It's a WFF 40 News and Weather is how you kind of search for that. We're going to be on, your Roku app, your Apple TV app, YouTube. Let's see, I've got the Fire Stick as well. Plenty of ways. Your phone, have multiple ways to get warnings. You may go without power tomorrow night, and it may be off the rest of the night because it's really hard to get the power back on, especially in the middle of the night, a little more dangerous than in the daylight hours. So again, just be prepared, stay weather alert. We'll take you through the storm no matter what happens. I'll have another update on WAFF TV tonight at 10.